I'm back in the studio with communications strategist Megan Sheeran. Hello again, Megan.
Hi, Robert.
So look, we're going to look now at the differences between writing for the ear versus writing for the eye. So great topic, and there clearly are some real differences, aren't there?
There are.
So where do we start and how do we fix it?
I think a good place to start, Robert, is to identify that when you're writing for the ear, it's most often in a scenario when you might be writing a speech, for example, you may be writing briefing notes for a presentation, any kind of face-to-face communication.
Right.
And the key thing to bear in mind with face-to-face communication is, unlike any other channel, it actually changes people's behaviour. And the reason for that is when we hear somebody's real voice, real human voice, it has a very powerful emotional impact on us.
Right.
So some key ways to actually write for the ears to ensure that that happens, that big emotional impact, is first of all, write in sound bites. So think of how TV news journalists speak, for example. Keep your sentences short, keep your words short.
Yep.
The more complex your topic is, the shorter your words and sentences should be.
And you want very distinct kind of takeouts. I mean, think of, did you say journalists or politicians?
Absolutely.
They're good at doing this kind of thing. So when you say writing for the ear versus writing for the eye, really when it's the eye, you're talking about written. So it's not looking at a video, for example. That classes as the ear, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So written communication, either printed or online where you're reading it.
All right, so carrying on with the ear then. So that's the first thing, is being really concise, having some sound bites. Other things we should be considering there?
The other thing you need to think about too is to actually end with your key point.
Oh, okay.
So when we're reading communication, it's relatively easy for us to take in quite a large amount of information. It might be quite complex, in a more holistic way.
Yeah, and I guess we can always scan back, can't we?
We can
just
go back and reread.
What are they talking about now? Oh yes, it's that, whereas we can't do that with the ear.
We can go back and reread something if we haven't understood it.
Yeah.
But when we're listening to somebody speak, what actually stays with us is the very last thing that they say.
Right.
So
okay.
that's where we want to put our key points. We make that the punchline at the end of sentences, at the end of paragraphs.
Okay. We better do that in a minute then.
We better.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next point.
And the last thing you want to think about is making it personal. So when we listen to a speech or a presentation, we're listening to it as an individual. And you know, it's much the same case when we read something too. But so what we need to do is actually speak to people as individuals. So here what we want to do is actually use personal pronouns, words like we and you and our, because they increase rapport with the listener. They actually build a closer relationship. We also want to actually use anchoring phrases to pull people back in at key points. So,
okay, what's an example of that?
Well, you may have an audience who'll be sitting there listening, thinking, well, you know, what does this really have to do with me?
Right.
So you pull them back in by saying things like, here's where you come in.
Okay,
this is what it means for you.
Yep.
Here's what we need from you. And these phrases work equally well for printed prose.
I was going to say, there's a lot of, I guess what we've all learnt about kind of writing since the advent of blogs is lots of bloggers write in a way that they're speaking, don't they?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of crossover here, but what you're saying is there are distinctions, we just need to be very aware of them. Yeah.
And I think one key crossover is we need to make our copy meaningful in such a way. We want to make it conversational, and this is particularly relevant online as well as for the spoken word. We need to write how we speak, and online, you know, it's a much more intimate world than the offline world. People are no longer prepared to tolerate that really overly crafted, overly polished kind of copy we used to see so much of. It's about showing a bit of your personality in line with your brand. It's about connecting with people through personal pronouns, using conjunctions, saying saying things like, we're going to do this rather than we are going to do this.
Oh, okay.
It just makes makes the spoken word a bit more informal. And look, the last thing I would leave
you're wrapping it all up.
I'm wrapping it up. The last thing I would leave you with is just listen. listen to how people really talk in conversations. Eavesdrop when you're in cafes, on the bus, that kind of thing. That's the very best way to actually learn how to write dialogue that's convincing.
Fantastic. Thank you again for joining us. Some
Pleasure.
great tips there. If we want to find out more about you, megansheeran.com.au.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us.